morning. Welcome to Sunday Morning Devotional brought to you by Golden Isles Primitive Baptist Fellowship and Heart Floss TV. I'm V. Vernon Eccleberry, and in a moment I'll have a lesson for you entitled Living in Contentment. But first, here's Brenda to sing a song that goes well with our theme this morning, Leaning on the Everlasting Arms. Thank you, Brenda. That certainly fits our theme this morning on contentment. He lived with a cognitive disability for all of his days on the earth. By outward appearance, one might say that he was deprived of the things that the world considers the successful life, or even what many church organizations mistakenly label as the blessed life, the name it and claim it crowd. The end game for those who seek material gain is to at last have enough to be content, a goal that for the majority goes unfulfilled. For Ronnie Reiner, that was not a problem. He once told me as we stood in what he called his radio shack, amidst his meager possessions, a CB radio, a few gospel music albums, some small motor parts for a project he was working on, and a steaming hot cup of coffee in his hand. Standing there in that little room, with Ronnie sitting in his usual spot in front of his CB, he looked up to me and he said, "Vernon, I've got everything I want." That absolutely amazed me, and I've never forgotten it. Ronnie, with his disability and a scant collection of things that brought him joy, had found that which eludes most of humankind, that is contentment. Let's look first of all at a definition of contentment. The Oxford English Dictionary defines contented as satisfied, desiring nothing more or nothing different, limiting one's desires, willing to put up with something, satisfied with one's present condition, and not disposed to complain. Contentment, then, is defined as the fact, condition, or quality of being contented. Let's look now at contentment from a biblical perspective. In Hebrews 13, Paul lays down rules for living the godly life. And among other things, he writes, "Let your conversation be without covetousness, and be content with such things as you have. For he, that is God, hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." That's Hebrews 13:5. There's three important words here, the first being conversation. And biblically speaking, that means manner, deportment, character, one's way of life. Covetousness means greed for material gain, and in this text, content is simply being satisfied. So Hebrews 13:5 reads literally this way: "Let your life be free from always wanting more, and be satisfied with what you have." And then Paul gives the foundation for such a life. "For he, that is God, hath said, I will never leave thee nor forsake thee." And then Paul adds the practical conclusion to it all in Hebrews 13:6. "Hence we can confidently say, the Lord is my helper, I will not be afraid. What can man do to me?" In other words, what can circumstances do to me? There was a man who met up with a friend in a store, and he politely asked him, "How's it going?" Well, the man replied, his friend replied, "Well, pretty good under the circumstances." You know, there's a vast difference from living life under the circumstances and living life above the circumstances. Which brings us to, then, contentment, a personal application. These are times of economic hardship due to inflation, which means for people there is a rapidly rising cost of living. And so we want financial security. And these are times of worldwide instability. We want then peace of mind. These are times of high crime, political and physical threats to our lives. We want safety. And these are times when people are stressed out over the pandemic, and so we want immunity. We live in a state of want, don't we? A discontented people. But as we read, the child of God confesses, "The Lord is my helper. I will not be afraid. What can man or circumstances do to me?" Nothing that man can do or circumstances can do will rob a child of God of their contentment, their freedom from always wanting more. Once a rich industrialist was walking along the docks and was disturbed to find a fisherman sitting lazily beside his boat. "Why aren't you out there fishing?" he asked. "Because I've caught enough fish for today," said the fisherman. "Well, why don't you catch more fish than you need?" the rich man asked. "Well, what would I do with them?" "Well, you could earn more money," came the impatient reply, "and buy a better boat so you could go deeper and catch more fish. You could purchase nylon nets, catch even more fish, and make more money. Soon you'd have your own fleet of boats and be rich like me." Well, the fisherman asked, "Then what would I do?" "Well, you could sit down and enjoy life," the industrialist replied. "Well, what do you think I'm doing now?" the fisherman said, and he looked placidly out to the sea, and the industrialist went his way. Well, the fisherman had learned a valuable lesson. He had learned how to be content. If we would be truly satisfied, then contentment must begin in the heart. When spiritual contentment is achieved, it will produce genuine contentment in other phases of our life. The psalmist in Psalm 23 compares the people of God to a flock of sheep under the care of a good shepherd. You know, I've never known a worrying lamb. Have you? They know instinctively that their shepherd will supply their needs. Are we as wise, I wonder, as these lowly animals? Contentment is what Psalm 23 is all about. Listen to this. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He maketh me to lie down in green pastures, he leadeth me beside the still waters. He restoreth my soul, he leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. And surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. So you see, that's what Psalm 23 is all about the ultimate contentment that comes to a child of God. So let's review then. We've seen the definition of contentment, the biblical perspective for contentment, and the application of contentment in our lives. Now, if we believe and apply these things to our everyday life, we will be able to say with Ronnie Reiner, I have everything I want. And now may God be with you till we meet again.